All right, well, Madam Justice is on that break. Welcome, Kimberly. She says she is thankful for her life and to see her daughter start secondary school. Wonderful. We celebrate that with you.
My apologies for the interruption. Also, as a magistrate in the juvenile court, I found that it was important that children know about the age of criminal responsibility. Most of them are in shock that they get to come before the court at age 11. In secondary school, when the charges are brought against them, and that is quite disruptive for them, not understanding and disturbing. Okay, I was naughty, like doing this at school, nothing happened. Why is it happening now? So I got together with the Barbados Police Service and the family planning, as well as with Ms. Grant in her transition process of camp transition. And we got together to develop the children's program. We normally try to get them together at the end of the 11 plus, so we can have discussions with them on various topics: drugs, abuse, law and you, your body and you, bullying, as we know, is something that they have to deal with at secondary school. It's at every school. Most schools have a no tolerance content for that, so that is a good thing. We also look at self-esteem because each child needs to have that self-esteem to be able to make good decisions, and it starts with you, the parents. So we thought we'd include the parents in our programs. We develop a parenting aspect of it as well for the parents for the summer program. Now this year we've joined with Camp Transition. I mean, really delighted to have us doing this together, not just the children aspect, but the parent aspect as well. We will have other seminars as well later on this month. I will let Jennifer tell you about it in the program as she goes through as MC. And it's really transition for you as well. You're transitioning as well from having them at primary school where you actually pick them up. Some of you actually went by bus where you knew every friend, and that's not possible now at secondary school because they're socializing in different ways now. As you know, they could be on social media with their friends, but that is also an issue as well. You need to get to know who they're talking to. So I'm glad to be with you this evening. I'm leaving in the hands this evening of Ms. Grant, who's very effective in putting across to you the strategies and tools to help with the transition of your child. Please take notes, and I'm sure she's going to enjoy every question that you have to ask. We look forward to your questions. We look forward to seeing you on our other parenting programs as well. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Justice, for your welcome and your opening remarks as well. Mrs. Grant, I'll pass it over to you for you to talk about camp transition.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see everyone here. So I'm just going to share my screen at this time. Okay, so we're looking at transition and you as the parent, because you will be transitioning as well as your child. And whenever we're talking about transition, we are talking about a change from one position to a next, or from one area to a next, one environment to a next. And our children will be leaving a known environment and going into pretty much an unknown one, unknown in many ways. So one of the things that we would recognize is that they might have some separation blues. They might not really want to leave. Some of them might be excited about leaving because the unknown is exciting to them and they're enterprising. But however, so for those who still feel as though they want to be connected with their primary school, they're not ready to leave us yet. They might feel connected to teachers or some other personnel at the school. We could encourage them that they can write farewell notes or they can send farewell cards to those persons just to thank them for all that they've done for them during the years and for helping them to be the person that they have developed to be. They can also journal their feelings. It is good to start journaling, and this is good for both boys as well as girls. They can journal their feelings each morning, each day. They can indicate on a journal. It could be an exercise book or it could be a fancy journal book. But the whole point is to journal those feelings. And those journals those feelings do not have to be in words. They can actually put them in graphics, okay? Or they can use emojis as well, or they can use colors to represent how they're feeling. They can even put it on a scale, like 1 feeling really down, 10 feeling super, super excited. And therefore you can see how there's that ebb and flow between the various emotions. One of the things I would also like to encourage is that parents and children talk about your fears. You as parents, you have fears, I'm sure, and children have fears as well. It's good to just discuss. You're just discussing them, because like human beings, we would fear the unknown to a certain extent. Some people might be pretty enterprising, but usually the fear is sometimes either based on knowledge or based on ignorance. So the thing is, discussing the fears is critical. By now, most of you, if not all of you, would have taken your child to visit the school. You yourself might have gone to the school to collect the textbooks, or you might have had the opportunity to have orientation. I know some schools had orientation today, and therefore some of you might have been able to get to that school, take your child to that school, and feel what it's like to be there. Get a glimpse of the environment there, get a glimpse of the structure of the school, the physical structure, the physical layout, and get acquainted with where the child's class is as well. One of the other things to discuss and research as much information as possible about the school, because the more you know about it, the better placed you would be and the more comfortable you will feel as well. And then parents, make a friend, make a parent friend. Okay, so identifying feelings is very important. This is critical as we move on. So let's say that your child is now leaving primary school, as you well know, and we can see that, suppose we say primary school is like them being in this shell, them being protected. You know that the class teacher is going to be there almost the whole day with them. And I'm sure you felt a pretty amount of security, right? But now they're entering a whole new world. That egg has broken, the child is stepping out, and you might be filled with trepidation. In some cases, you might have a little anxiety, but at the same time, you are there ready to share that, lend that support. So as that child enters secondary school, they might be a little wobbly right now. They might be a little insecure. They might feel unsure. All those feelings are very, very, very normal. But eventually they will get to stand on their own 2 feet. They will get to be able to, the more they learn about the school, the more grounded they will become and the more comfortable they would be as well. So a new journey has begun. They're leaving, they've left class 4, which is the highest level that you can go at primary school. And now it is a continuation. You can either see it as a continuation or you can see it as a new beginning. But however you see it, they're beginning. And as they step into secondary school, you have the years 1 to 3 will be considered as the junior school, and years 4, 5, and 6, sixth form considered as the senior school. So years 1 to 3, the foundation is being laid academically as well as personally. They're going to do a lot of things, a lot of projects, a lot of group work, even experiences that they have that will help to boost their academic knowledge base. It will also boost their personal development. There's also the CCSLC, which is done in some schools in years 1 to 3. And then as they enter 4th form, they would get to, the subjects are reduced, because in 1st to 3rd form, they do about 10 to 13 subjects. And then they get to 4th form, they reduce to about 8. And the reduction is critical because as they go up, you get to realize that the work gets more intense. The work gets more intense, and therefore the children have to, they do less in terms of subjects, but more in terms of volume and depth. Then you have the CSET exams and the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate. And then you also have, in some schools, you have the CVQ, which is Caribbean Vocational Qualification, and that is acceptable throughout the Caribbean as well. And in some schools where children might have 6th form, they're going to CAPE, which would be Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination. So these are the meaning here CCSLC is the Caribbean Certificate of Second Level Competence. And you can all get all this information from CXC.org. Now is a good time for you to start looking at what CXC is offering, how CXC operates, learn about it, because that will be the Caribbean Examination Council, is the examining body which will be providing the certificates that your children would be sitting. Now in secondary school, we have a chain of command and it must be respected. Sometimes some parents want to go straight to the principal, but not every item on your agenda needs to be directed to the principal. They can be directed to the form teacher, the year head, the deputy head, the guidance counselor, or the subject teacher. So not everything has to go to the principal, and therefore you adhere to the chain of command. Secondary schools are run by a board of management, and they look out for the overall running of the school, but the principal is the main person who is like the CEO. And then we have the deputy principal. We have, in each secondary school, you have different departments. Every subject has a department. So you have all the science subjects would be the science department, math department, English department, foreign language department, etc., vocational studies department, and business department. So you have teachers in each of these fields. And in secondary school, we have teachers who are specialized in different subjects. And that is why you'll find that your children will be taught by different teachers each day. Then we have the year head or senior teacher. The year head or senior teacher is responsible for the running of that year group, so that any disciplinary issues, any behavioral issues, any issues that affect the smooth running of that year group would be directed, as it relates to children and parents, would be directed to the year head, and then if necessary to the principal. The guidance counselor, most students would have had a guidance counselor in their primary school, but the guidance counselor is there to ensure that every child is comfortable not only physically, but comfortable socially and emotionally. So the counselor has his or her own office, and meetings are carried on individually, independently of others. There are some situations where the counselor can see the child without even the knowledge of the parent. And there are some problems that children, some issues that children have to work out on their own, but there are some issues that would definitely have to engage the presence and the knowledge of the parents, and therefore that is when the parent will be called in. You then have the various subject teachers. For every subject, there's a different teacher. So your child can be taught by maybe 7, 12, 13, 15 different teachers, depending. We also have an ITC, the IT coordinator, and they're responsible to ensure that when it comes to the computer systems, the IT matters, that those are handled as effectively and efficiently as possible. There's a librarian, and you also have the lab assistant. These are there to ensure the librarian, obviously, in the library, and the lab assistant will be there when tests, experiments are being carried out. The lab assistant will be there to ensure that those chemicals are mixed, and whatever the teacher wants, the items are prepared. We also have the non-teaching staff, which we have in the board office, the secretary treasurer, the exec officer, and they also have a clerk typist. And the treasurer is responsible, then she has the oversight over the ancillary staff, which could be the messenger, the watchman, the janitors, etc. So the guidance counselor is there to ensure that, we provide keys to academic success, college and career readiness, social and emotional development of every student. So in some cases, there's one guidance counselor. In some schools, in some schools you have two guidance counselors. You may also have a school counselor, and the role is really to see students, manage individual caseloads. As children might come on their own. Sometimes a friend might refer them, a parent might refer them, teachers might refer, principals might refer. So wherever the referral comes from, the counselor sees those children. They also have group counseling sessions where you might have cases where there are multiple children dealing with the same issue. And in that case, you can have a group counseling program for them, intervention. And then the council also, as they go through the school and they recognize that there are certain needs, they might initiate certain programs for the children. And these programs can be in the form of, can cater to personal development, social development, career planning, or educational planning. Counselors also teach health and family life education. They make referrals to community agencies in the event that the case might be outside of our depth. That we work with some community agencies and we do make referrals. Anytime any referral is done, the parent will be contacted, the principal will be contacted as well and signs off on it. And then sometimes we might have situations where we might have referred a case and we want to have a case conference. So we're calling the parent, the professional who dealt with the child, then teachers or whoever is involved in that matter, and we will discuss it and to see how we can move forward comfortably and effectively for that child. So I want the employer know when to ask for help. There are situations where, there are some situations that you can handle on your own, and those will be Play-Doh type situations. So, Play-Doh is malleable, you can manipulate it, and there are some problems, some issues that arise from day to day, and you can handle them. Your child might be able to handle them. But then there are the big rock ones. There are some that you can't really handle on your own, and you must recognize that when there's need for help, ask for help. Because sometimes the more you delay, the more dangerous the situation becomes. So we would implore you to ask for help where possible. Connect with the guidance counselor in your child's school, because that is where you will get your help. So how does your child really see themselves as they go into secondary school? How do you see your child? And in the chat, I would like you to put down, how do you see your child as he or she enters secondary school right now? I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to do that. Put in the chat which of these animals you see your child as they enter secondary school. And Jennifer, you can call out a few of them as they. Okay, any written as yet?
We have one, a turtle, tiger, bird. The answers are flowing in. Turtle, cat, elephant. These are about the main ones. So tigers, turtles, cats, elephant. Someone says not sure.
Okay, great. All right. So it's okay. Now, the thing is, you're going to see your child based on how the strengths that they have exhibited or what you might think would be areas that they need to improve on. But recognizing that your child is now leaving a school where they were the most senior, they were among the most senior students, they were among the oldest students. Now they're entering secondary school, they're at the very baby position. They are now the baby of the whole clan. And they are now the most junior, and in some cases, the youngest among the youngest. So obviously, some of them will see themselves differently, because whereas at primary school, they might have seen themselves as large and in charge, and they might see themselves as the lion, the bold one, the fearless one. Now going into secondary school, they might see themselves as a scaredy cat. And that's all well and good, because they would have reasons for that, but we would not want them to remain in that kind of situation. So again, talking it out would definitely help. So the self-image is important. How you see your child and how your child sees themselves is critical. And this is a discussion that y'all can actually have. Now, know your child's new school. Now, in this new school, you're going to have different situations, and every school has its own culture. Every school has its own motto, its own school song. Every school has successful past students. So understand how your school is going. Now, there's sometimes when each child will be given a timetable. And as you get that timetable, we want you to be able to help the child understand it, because in primary school, they did not have a timetable for the most part. The teacher would dictate what comes next. And sometimes they may not even know what is coming next. But now they are responsible. They're going to be given a timetable, the class timetable, and they will have to follow the timetable accordingly. So they bring to school the books according to the timetable. And they must be able to understand that timetable very well. For example, if they bring Monday's books on Tuesdays, they might be in for some trouble, because Tuesday may not be and no subjects on Tuesday might be taught on Monday. So they will be missing out big time. And you know what? You might get a call saying, Mommy, Daddy, Auntie, Granny, bring these particular books. And it means that you have to leave your workplace or wherever and come to the school to carry those books. Now, that can be avoided if when they get the timetable, you can actually have that timetable stuck up at home in that study area, so that both you and the child can see what is supposed to be done the next day. And the bags will be packed the night before. And you don't pack the bags for the children, let them pack their bags. Let them start to show some responsibility and be accountable for their actions as well. Do as much research on the school as possible. Don't go on hearsay. Research for yourself. You can go on YouTube. I'm sure Media Resource Department, they have some videos on all the schools. You can go. They would have been done a few years ago, so they might not be, or everything may not be relevant right now, but at least it gives you a good idea as to what the schools are like. And I'm sure by now you would have gotten some information from the schools as well. Do read everything that the schools send you. I know it's going to be a lot of material, but please keep a folder just for that and keep reading. Now, opportunities. It's not too early to find out what kind of opportunities the school is going to be offering your child. Your child will have opportunities to join to join various extracurricular activities. They'll be able to volunteer. They'll be able to demonstrate leadership. And not only that, but when it comes to being on the principals on a roll, that's also important. Really aiming to get merit badges, aiming to be on the honor roll, aiming to be among the top 5% in the classroom or the top 10%. And once they do that, you know what? They're on their way towards scholarships. And we want to talk scholarships to our children as much as possible, because you know what? If your child can get a scholarship, that is a big weight lifted off your shoulder. All right. Co-op programs. There are some schools that have co-op programs where the children can work. They can do some practical work while they're at school, and you can check out all of that as well. Leadership opportunities, not only as a prefect, but representing the school in various workshops and seminars, doing different things for the school, even doing things for the country. All of these would be recognizable. And I would like to encourage you that wherever your children have been talented, their talents have been shown out in primary school, try not to relax them now. This is the time to really get them going so that they become, more proficient in them. And at the same time, who knows, it might be their career path. It might be a way for a scholarship. So please try not to hinder such. And I want you parents to get involved in the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association. Don't sit back and say, hey, that ain't for me. My child doesn't give me any trouble. It's not for trouble, it's trouble parents. It's for parents, helping parents to understand what is going on in the child stage at that particular age, and what the school can do, what kind of problems are coming up in the school, the type of challenges that children face from day to day. And it's about discussing those. And you as parents, you can actually steer the PTA. The programs that are designed for you, so you should have a say in what is being prepared. So wherever possible, let your voice be heard. Now you'll be invited to year group meetings. And when you go to those year group meetings, you will meet all the teachers who teach your child. And you would have, I'm sure you would have had that kind of experience at primary school as well. But at secondary school, you'll get the time to meet all the teachers who teach your child. And I want you to be more engaging when you go to the teachers. Now, in this book here, Entering Secondary School, some of your children will probably have it. If they don't have it, you can always contact me. But at the back of this book, we have a part for parents where we try to help you. So when you go to the year level meeting and you ask about your child, you don't just hear, it's your child is fine, your child is okay, your child doesn't give any trouble. You want more than that. I will want you to get more than that, because your child is more than a test score. Your child is more than a mark, right? So as you go to the teachers, you can ask about the progress. How is my child progressing in this subject in your class? How is my performing in your class, right? And then what's my child's conduct like in your class? What's my child's attitude like in your class? What are my child's strengths? No, the teacher would definitely have to know your child to be able to say what the strengths are. Okay, what are my child's strengths? And then what are my child's weaknesses? And then not only that, but how can we tackle it? And this is all written here in a template form so that you can actually fill in as you go to the various teachers. Now, imagine getting that kind of all those questions answered by all your teachers. It would mean then that you are leaving there with a very good view of who your child is, what your child presents when they're in the classroom. Okay, the guidance department, as I mentioned before, is there to make sure that your child is comfortable, and at the same time, you as a parent, you can be helped as well. Now, policy on the pass mark. What's the pass mark of the school? Ask some questions about that. What's the policy about promotion? What's the policy about repeating? Right? In every school, children have to repeat. If you're not good enough for the next year group, you will have to repeat. It's no point sending up a child who is weak and struggling, because you will continue to be weak and struggling if no intervention is made. And we still have protocols in place for COVID. So please, wherever possible, adhere to those. So embrace your child's new school, and I want to talk about new school. And I know some parents get into the whole thing, but oh, you ain't going to a good school. Oh, you're going to a good school, so XYZ. No, please, it's a new school. It's a new school. So the location, this might be the first time the child is going into that parish or even going to that location. But the whole point is, I want you as parents to help the child to figure out how to get there. Not only figure out how to get there, but as they drive, if you're driving them to school, please take away the device from them while they're driving. Let them look around and be aware of their surroundings. Sometimes some children don't even know when they get to school until you stop the car and you tell them, hey, get out, you're at school. Take away the device from them. Let them keep it in their bags if they have to carry it with them. But let them, that's the car time, is like time to talk, time to discuss things as you see it happening on the road, time to look around and see the different landmarks and the different names of roads and so. And it's an exercise in learning. So please encourage that kind of conversation as well. The size of the school will be different. Children are moving from, like, in some cases 200, 250, 300, 600, to schools that are 900 plus. Some schools have 1100. So they're moving from a very huge, in our terms, a huge environment. But the whole point is, they might see themselves as insignificant. They might see themselves as, just a dot. But the whole point is that they are part of that family. Are they moving from a single sex school to a co-ed school? From a co-ed school to a single sex school? Are they moving from public to private or private to public? Are they continuing from private to private, public to public? Whichever the situation is, we want them to recognize that there will be a little change. At the same time, if those who are moving from private to public, there will be many changes, many changes. But we want you all to be able to embrace those changes as their experience. The culture of every school is different, so you need to understand what happens in that school is based on the mission statement of the school, and things are carved around that. So, you know, some people say, but at this particular school, this thing is happening. Why can't it happen here? You have to look at the culture of the school. Does the school really need it? Etc. And then the motto, children will need to learn the new motto of the school song, and successful students. There are successful students who have been to every school in Barbados. So therefore, we want that children get to learn, to meet, and to recognize some of the past students who have successfully passed through the school and who are making a great contribution to Barbados and the world in general. Now, the rules of the school are not there written to look pretty or to sound heavy. They're there to be read and adhered to. I would like you parents to encourage your children to adhere to the handbook, read the handbook, make sure they understand, underline, it is yours, so you can underline, highlight everything. And please, please, please adhere to the rules of the school. Now, some major adjustments coming up, transportation. In some cases, some children might have to change their mode of transportation. Where they used to catch the bus before, they might now be walking, or vice versa. They might now be going by car, or, you know, but the whole point is whatever, please understand the mode of transportation, and whichever mode of transportation it is, make sure it is one that is reliable and one that can get the children to school early. Sometimes parents might have to get to work for 9 o'clock, but the child's school might be, the first bell might be going at 8:25 or 8 o'clock or 8:35 or 8:40. And the child might get to school late because of the parent. And obviously, this is going down against the child's name. So please, and when you get the report, you will see all the lates will be documented. So please, you know, so please look at that carefully. If the child has to catch the bus, teach them how to catch the bus and let them catch the bus. If you have to get to work half hour earlier so your child can get to school on time, let them get there. Because when it comes down to like being farm captain or being voted for some leadership position, that will be looked at, right? That will be looked at. And therefore, you know, everybody would not know that the parent was the cause of the child's lateness. They would just think that the child was late because they chose to be late. Teacher interaction will be different. As I mentioned before, as you come into each class, you'll have a different teacher, different personality, different mode of teaching, and therefore children have to adapt to all of that. So children have to do a lot of adaptation throughout the day, because one teacher might be smiley, another teacher might be cool, another teacher might be serious, another teacher might be real strict, and the child has to adapt to all of those as the teacher comes in. But the whole point is the child is there to learn, okay? And they must do everything possible to make sure that they learn. Then we have the bells. Bells will go at different times. Different schools have, they start at different times and they end at different times. So you see, that has to be understood. And sometimes you have a warning bell, so the child can get there by the warning bell, but then you know that they're pretty safe in the school and early. Then they might hear the bell about 10 different times during the day, because at the end of every period, the bell goes. That's to indicate to the teacher, hey, your time is up, another period has started. So out goes that teacher, in comes another teacher, and the child has to adapt accordingly. Then on the bottom left, we have some utensils that we want the children to have, like highlighters, flashcards, pens. They're going to be writing. Pens will be the main utensil they'll be using at school. So they still have another 2 weeks that they can start practicing writing with pen. I find that the handwriting of children is really deteriorating. So let them start writing with the pen. The ruler is still a good tool to have. You know, so make sure they have those things available. Laptops, from time to time, they might be asked to use the laptops. So again, they must still be laptop friendly, and a lot of the work that they might get to do, because even though we're in face to face, some teachers put the homework in the Google Classroom. So we put there as an added feature. So the thing is, the Google Classroom will still be used, so therefore children still need to have their devices. And in the event that we had a day out of the physical, but we are using online, well then they will still need to have their laptops available. And then the time. We want you to set an alarm between you and the child or together. Decide on a good time for your child to go to bed. Children should not be deciding when they go to bed. This week and next week will be good times to get them started so that their body can get back into that routine of going to bed at a reasonable time and getting up at a proper time. So, and not only that, children are very crafty. Some of them have their devices with them during the night, and it would be good if you can take away that device. If your child is not trustworthy, please take away the device and let them go to bed, not only to bed, but go to sleep. Because some of them go to bed, but they do not go to sleep. They're on the devices all night. 3 a.m. is when they then start to feel sleepy. And obviously they only have 2-3 hours to get a little nap and then they're up again. So please encourage early to bed, early to rise. Now, with all the different teachers they're going to be having, they're going to be getting a lot of homework. And this can be overwhelming for some children. They might not be able to manage the time nor manage the number of assignments as they come, because they're going to be coming like, it's going to appear as well fast and furious. So I would suggest from early, where children, you as parents, we will want you to organize a study plan so that children will be able to have that study plan. First of all, organize a study area. So everybody may not have a study room, but if you have a study area where you have that child set up, that is their corner, a table, a chair, and all the books and everything well packed away so that they're accessible to them. They won't have to get up and move from one place to go somewhere else to find whatever, but everything is right there at their disposal. And not only that, it keeps them in the framework of studying, okay? And it must be away from distractions, good ventilation, good lighting, and proper seating, comfortable seating, so that they can really focus on their work. They will have a lot of homework. They will have a lot of projects, a lot of sometimes group work. And you know how groups operate sometimes. Sometimes you don't always find everybody in the group collaborating as they should. But the thing is, group work, it helps to build personality. It helps to build character. It helps to build teamwork. So one, you can organize that so that your child can have the study plan on a bulletin board right where they're studying. So where they're studying, you have that bulletin board up, you have the study plan, you have the homework, the timetable from school can be put up there as well, so that you don't have to ask the child, or the child doesn't have to go every day pulling out the timetable from somewhere. It is right there put up for your view and the child's view. And this is what it looks like in December entering secondary school. This is what it will look like on page 66. You have the study plan, you have the shaded area is where they will put the class timetable in. And then in all the other outside areas, you and the child can sit down and y'all can discuss how you're actually going to arrange the studies. So every day they get the homework, you put in a time for homework. And then you can choose two subjects, any two subjects. And those two subjects, we'll spend about 25 minutes on each subject. And you can have 25 minutes in one subject, then they can take a break, 25 minutes in another subject. Now, the 25 minutes will be spent in terms of reading over work or either reviewing or reading ahead. They have the textbooks, so they can really read ahead, okay? So that's that. Then we have virtual, you can have virtual study groups where you can get about 2 or 3 other students from the class, or, their friends, and they can actually do some study virtually. And parents, your support is critical. I have a saying, which is like, parental support is the oxygen that children need to succeed throughout secondary school. Your support is their oxygen. So please do not suffocate them. One of the things that is critical here too is that sometimes parents can become impatient, right? And we want the child to understand it right away as soon as we explain it. Sometimes we are not as patient with our own children as we are with other people's children. So, your child can work with the neighbor, but the neighbor's child work with me. Everybody will be happy. So one of the things that I would recommend though is that you understand how your child learn. And there is a learning style inventory that I would recommend. It's called the VARK, VARK. If you just Google VARK, the inventory will come up, and your child will answer the questions, and they will send a report. You as the parent can also do one so that you can see what your learning style is and how different it is from your child's. Because then what they will also do is to send you some strategies to help you understand what you can do to understand the work one, to take in the information in a more effective way. So the workload will be doing about 15 subjects, maybe 13 to 15 subjects. And, they have the textbooks by now, I'm sure. And I would really suggest that they start reading these textbooks before they get into school. It is important to get a first-hand view of what is going on. And the textbooks that they get, as you know, they're on the textbook loan scheme. And you are responsible for them to make sure your child has them well covered. Their name is in them. They do not lend them to anybody, because in the long run that they are not available when they have to return them at the end of term 3. It means then that they have to pay for any that they can't find, and that they've lost, any that were stolen, any that were damaged, they will have to pay towards the repair as well. So the designated study area is what I was talking about. If it can look something like this, that would be perfect. The one on the left, that would be perfect, where the child has the book stand. They can have their books set out, all the exercise books. And remember, the exercise books will come from the school with the school's logo on it. And those are the only ones that are accepted in the school. And when the child has finished written out the first book, they will just go to the library or wherever is designated to get a second book, right? And you will not have to pay for those books as they are replaced. If the child can't find the first one, well then I'm sure they will have to pay for the second one. Okay, but the designated study area, organization, and structure. And those are the 2 keys to successful studying. But the cluttered room, teenagers talk about not being able to keep a tidy room, but it is possible, because if you have a cluttered room, it's equated to a cluttered mind. And when you're looking for that timetable, when you're looking for that project, when you're looking for whatever, that flash drive, that is so critical. It is all there. One, you're wasting time, because you might spend so much time doing it and still don't find it, or you might find it and it is not in a position to hand to anybody. Okay, so please encourage your children to be tidy. Now, there's some digital do's and don'ts. I'm not going to go through this because I know you're going to get more information on this, but I will let you to recognize that we have found that a lot of children have access to fancy cameras. Yeah, sometimes parents have the Nokia while children have the smartphone, and some parents don't know what's the child's password. They don't know the different groups that the children are in. And what I have noticed is that, just like how you would not allow your child to go in anybody's house at random, the same thing with going into different chat groups. Because some children go into chat groups at random. And they don't even know the other people in there. They don't know all the people in there because a lot of children do not use names. They use like some of these Japanese names, and they use symbols and Chinese words and all that. So you don't even know who you're talking to. You don't even know who's in that group. So we would want you to keep tabs wherever possible on your child's phone, connect with them, communicate with them, because cyberbullying is very, 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 very evident. I want you to also get a view of the computer misuse app, because it is important that your children understand that they cannot be taking pictures of other children and sending them hither, thither, and yon. Is not a game, is a very serious matter. And we would like to encourage you to talk to your children about these things so they do not get themselves involved. We have situations where children, especially girls, we find that girls get into a lot of TikTok and so TikTok, where the boys get into a lot of gaming, but girls now are sending pictures of themselves, their body parts, parts of their body, so to speak. And they might think, well, my face is not there, so I can still send a picture. The boy asks them for a picture and they send a picture of their breast or whatever. And we want you to recognize that your children may not do those things, but they are talking to people who do it. And if your child is not strong, they can be engage in such matters eventually. They're still being contaminated, even if they don't do it, but they're associating with people who do it. They will be given a daily rundown. So they're still being contaminated. So please, please, please work with your children wherever possible. Okay, so some common practices that are awaiting your children. We sometimes we find that these are some of the things that are out there, and you have to guard children against them. Disrespect for authority, anger, outbursts, loneliness, dislike for reading, self-harming, secrets, bullying, time mismanagement, social media addiction, poor teamwork skills, lack of discipline, poor communication, cross-talking, poor listening skills, substance abuse, disregard for property. All these are things that your children might have to face in a day, right? They might come across one or more of these things in a day or while they're at school. And how do they deal with it? How do it might be them as the perpetrator, or they might be in the presence of somebody, they might witness it happening. How do they deal with it? Okay, how would they make sure that they're not affected? And this is where you as parents have to peer pressure proof your children. So know your child. And I always say that children have three faces, one for the parent, one for the teacher, and one for their friends. So when you invite your friends, your child's friends over, and they're doing homework or they're just there socially, you can see how your child interacts. You can learn a lot more about your child in those kind of ordinary settings. But know your child and try to maintain that kind of openness, that kind of opportunity, that kind of give them that opportunity to talk. How was your day is not all, because you're just here. All right. Yeah. And I'm sure you want more than that. So you want to engage, you want to engage, you want to engage, because at this stage in time, this is when they need you. They might not act that way, but they need you. They're listening to you, they're doing what you say, but at the same time, they might put up some resistance as well. But don't be perturbed, right? So engaging them in volunteer activities, community spirit, engaging them, getting them involved in at least two, at the most two extracurricular activities. It would be good if they could be involved in more, but considering the amount of work that they have to do, and they still have chores to do at home, and you still want them to relax a bit, and then they have the extracurricular activities, but engage them, let them get involved in extracurricular activities, because it helps to build them, it helps them to learn and connect with children from other year levels, and at the same time, they grow in character as well. No lunch. No, there'll be no more school meals. There are some schools that still have school meals, and but not for everybody. But we'll want you to, if your child has to buy lunch from the canteen, but then that can be a pretty costly event. So if they have to buy lunch from the canteen, they have to get into lines there, but you have to realize that there are going to be long lines. There's going to be less time to socialize, and you have to buy what they sell. If, however, um, you can bring lunch from home, which will be recommended. Bring lunch from home. They can eat early. They can be more relaxed. They have more time to socialize, and they can bring what they like. Okay, so wherever possible, and the schools now are encouraging healthy eating. So therefore, it would be good if you can encourage them to bring lunch from home, but obviously that has implications for prepping the food and making sure now that you still do all of that and get out early so you still get to school early. So the lunch has a long-term expense, and we're just going to go through it a bit. If you give your child $10 a day, you might say, hey, it's only $10, no problem. But by the end of the week, that's $50. By the end of the month, that's $200. By the end of the term, that's $600. And by the end of the school year, that's $1,800, right? And sometimes when you give children lunch money, they want little money for the evening too, a little snack. So it's going to be more than that. And if their child spent 5 years at school, well, that's $9,000 that you would have given them. You would not have realized it because you were given 10 by 10 by 10 by 10 or 50 by 50 by 50. But the whole point is it's going to add up. And I would really like to suggest for every parent, wherever possible, get your child engaged in a credit union account, get them to have a credit union account so that they can save money on the credit union account. That $9,000 plus the interest and so would help you a long way as they consider either BCC, SJPI, or sixth form. So the academic strength of your child will be challenged. I want to recognize that as they come into secondary school, even if they were top boy or top girl, they must not come in thinking that I am it. They must recognize that it will be competitive. And in as much as we want them to be competitive, we want them also not to stretch themselves beyond their limits. We want them to have a growth mindset. And having a growth mindset, we want them to, they will be able to recognize that even if they failed, it is not fatal, neither is it final. If they fail, they'll recognize that at least, you know what, I now understand what was wrong. I now know what is right. So when you have a growth mindset, you are not perturbed. You are willing to try, and you don't run from challenges. You embrace challenges because you are always willing to learn. When you have a fixed mindset, you believe that if you're gifted, and that's it. You don't have any latitude for broadening your knowledge base or anything like that. When you fail, it's final. So therefore, we want our children to develop that growth mindset so that they'll be able to, stretch themselves beyond even their comfort zone. Emotional intelligence will be assessed. They will have situations where everybody will not be of the same mindset every day. Some people will be angry at sometimes, some people will be frustrated, some people will be depressed, some people will be aggressive, and these behaviors will be shown. And your child must be able to identify these types of behaviors when things are moving from a calm mindset to maybe violent. They must be able to see that. They must be able to recognize when they're talking to someone or if they're hitting someone, and they realize that the person is changing in terms of their facial expression or even the tone of their voice. They must be able to recognize, hey, emotions are changing here, and therefore the behavior will be impacted. So emotional intelligence is important. Values will be questioned. And your child might even ask you certain things about, why you want them to do X, Y, Z, and all of a sudden it's like, but why? And you might be saying, well, because I say so, or because I'm your parent. This is a good time to rationalize with your child. Just talk to them, let them know the reason for things, and they have to be able to understand how it is impacting on them eventually. So peer pressure issues will arise, and many times peer pressure issues are based on values. And then the pubertal signs will be noticed, and that's something we can't run from. We have to embrace it, and life skills will be demanded. They have to be able to make decisions, sometimes on their feet. They have to problem solve. They have to be self-aware. They have to have a strong self-esteem. They have to be resilient. All these are life skills that they will have to bring to the fore as they go through secondary school. How they deal with situations is another thing. Your children can be very vulnerable, and they're going to come across children. Your child might be well groomed. Your child might be well catered for. You might have spent a lot of time, imparting knowledge into your child. You might have a good communication system going on with your child, but the child that is sitting next to your child in school or your child's best friend might not have those opportunities. And therefore, when they meet a problem and it's too much for them, they might turn to self-harming. Self-harming is becoming very, very popular among our young people. And they see these things on YouTube, they see them in movies, and they Google them. And for some of them, it is cool. They try it, and we want you to, wherever possible, talk to your children, let them know that it's self-harming, even though those who do it, claim that when they do it, it helps them. At the end of the day, the problem is still there. So really and truly, it is not effective, right, in solving problems. As the emo said, when you hurt, you talk. When I hurt, I cut. That's the only option they have. But they need to be spoken to so that they can come out of that deep, dark well that they find themselves in. So they use anything, the menorah blade, they use the shaver, they can use the same blade that in the sharpener. Some girls use the blade from the eyebrow. They can use anything. A piece of glass, somebody's phone drop and crack, and a little glass from that screen they use. So they can use anything that is available. And usually it's on the inner forearm. If they're left-handed, you'll probably see it on the right. If they're right-handed, you'll probably see it on the left. Some people do it underneath their clothes. So it's hidden on the thighs, some do it on the thighs as well. But we also want you to encourage your children to feed their brain. As your opioid said, an empty bag can't stand up. So therefore, feeding the brain is important. And with the schools moving towards the healthy lifestyle, nutrition policy in place, we want to encourage our children to exercise, walk around, do some form of exercise. And this is where you can come in. If you have a exercise routine, let your child be involved in that as well. So when you do up the chart with the homework, the study plan, incorporate little exercise in there as well. Even if it's just walking the dog around the neighborhood, get moving. The whole point is get some steps, get moving. And in terms of feeding the brain, we want to realize that all the vegetables and the fruits, they have some extremely important nutrients that the brain needs. The child is using the brain every day. They will have to put in new information. They want to have healthy brain cells. So you want to make sure that they're putting the right types of food, no additives, no preservatives. I mentioned before, joining a club, your child, you would know where they're interested, where their interest lies, and we want them to get involved in some activity. Joining a club is critical, and we really want them to be involved in that. So many teen issues, some of these teenagers, if they have adjustment problems, like now as they go into secondary school, we want to have the transition as smooth as possible. So as they go into secondary school, try your best to really make sure that everything is done. I know by now you probably have the uniforms already bought, the books probably have already been covered and the bag, everything, but give them a little dress run so that dry run so that they can see how it is fitting on them. They put on the shoes with the socks, make some steps in the house, make sure everything is on point. Sometimes when parents buy uniforms like very, very early in the vacation, by the end of the vacation, those children have grown tremendously. So sometimes some uniforms now are too tight or too short, or some shoes a little too tight. So check them before next Monday morning so that children, 2 months from now, so that children you won't have any surprises on that day. And then too, if the adjustment issues, embracing the school so that children get to love the school, they want to be there. All of those things are important. Then you have any unresolved issues from way back in the past, childhood issues that they might have experienced. If those were not resolved, they might resurface at this point. So you can watch out for those kind of behaviors as well. Lack of parental support. Children need your support. As I said, parental support is the oxygen that they need right now. That's the only thing that's going to keep them going. So when they come home and they're telling you all about all these different things that happen in school, and you get tired of hearing, sometimes you might hear one name all the time, and it's like, shh, you want a break. But listen, because they're inviting you into their world. And as they invite you into their world, that is your opportunity to process. That's your opportunity to find out what's really happening, right? In their world. If you shut them up at that point, you're not going to be able, you will lose them. Okay, so it's important to really figure out at that point what is happening, share with them, listen to them, try not to be judgmental, listen. Sometimes that's all they want. They want you to listen. Okay. Realistic goals, lack of realistic goals. Sometimes some children might have unrealistic goals, or sometimes some parents might have unrealistic goals for the children. So try again, communication, communication. If you know your child has certain limitations, try to be understanding at the same time and try to really work things out in a realistic way. Unmet emotional needs, every child needs affection. Every child needs to be loved. If your child does not feel loved at home, they're going to go outside and find it elsewhere. Attention, every child needs attention. They want you to notice them. Otherwise, they're going to do the obvious or sometimes even the not so obvious thing, and just to get your attention. Then that sense of belonging, especially if you have siblings and they realize that you are giving other siblings more attention than they will do things to make sure you get their attention as well. They get your attention. Then that sense of belonging, do they feel as though they really belong to you? Do you treasure them? Do they feel that measure of treasure, that they're wanted by you? And then security. Do they see you as a safe person? Do they feel safe among you in your presence, etc.? Do you provide that sense of security for them? So parents, have no fear. Additional support along with all that I've mentioned before, the support that you can get from the school, support through the PTA, the support from other parents. I also want to offer you this support. It's a book that I co-authored, and there you have the child monitoring form in there where you can actually look at their how they study, how they organize themselves. You can actually chart it, you can actually rate it, so that if you see an issue that is rising, like is able to ignore distractions, does all homework assignments, is organized, prepares for tests well in advance, completes all assignments on time, manages time well, and you can actually rate them, and then you can see where the problem lies and get help with it as early as possible. So the study plan, the test monitor, I mentioned that, the project monitor, where they will, every time they get a project, they will put it on that. They'll have the subject, then they'll give They will give the date. Obviously, the teacher will give a date for that to be handed in, but they can also have a self-imposed deadline, right? So that they actually finish it before the actual date, because sometimes the printer can just decide that it's not going to work when you want it to work. Then the year level meeting, I spoke about that, where you can have those questions posed to each teacher so that they can really help you to get a better understanding of who that child is presenting in front of them, right? And then the social and emotional learning programs, the book is also good for that. And then the health and family life education is used as a textbook for health and family life education in some schools. I would have had the camp during the summer. And if there are any parents here from camp, we want to welcome you back to this webinar. I hope that all goes well with you. Now, there's a blueprint that I also created for parents, a successful parent, successful student, really, a blueprint to help kids have a happy, healthy, and successful transition to secondary school. And that is a 3-month program, which is for parents, giving parents the skills that they need to help their children, so that, there are so many parents who get frustrated, every time they go home and they have to deal with the homework. It's frustrating to them because they just can't get that unmotivated child to work. That child who is so talented, but yet they can't get them to work. That child who is so talented, but they're satisfied with just being mediocre, just satisfied with a half mark, a half percentage. We want to take the challenges out. We want to take the frustration out and help parents, because it could be damaging to the child as well, because sometimes in those situations, some parents can tell the child some things, and then eventually you might find that it can affect the academic and social and personal development. So parents, I would suggest that you form parent cells as you go into your new schools. Don't just, sit back and look to see what the school can do for you, but ask yourself what you can do for the school. And again, in this book, at the very back, it has here how parents can help and be helped. Okay? How parents can help and be helped. And this is where now, if your child is the only child from his or her primary school and is very, very shy, if your child has had a major loss recently, if your child finds it difficult to make new friends, if your child has health challenges or learning disorders, these are things that you can let the counselor know so that provisions can be put in place. If you have financial problems, issues, you can let the counselor know and they will see how they can put programs in place to help you. No child should be outside of school because they don't have lunch. Schools will put programs in place to help those children, but if we don't know, we can't help. So please come forward and speak to the counselor or the year head or the principal or the form teacher in place. If your child has been diagnosed with dyslexia or anything like that, that is nothing to keep silent. Let the school know so that they can actually follow the recommendations of the psychologist or the professional who diagnosed the child, and we'll be able to help that child from early. Okay. And then it also have a place for where you as a parent is willing to serve as a resource person. So if you look around the school and you realize that there's some areas that you can really help, fathers, if the fathers decide, you know what, we're going to form a group so we can help the boys, hello, those things will be welcome. So wherever possible and you can help the school, help the school. All right. So there's nothing like parent support. Don't let your guard down because your child might not be giving you any problems or whatever. Don't say, well, that's somebody else's issue. My child is good. Too bad for them. No, we want you, this is not a competition. We want you to support yourself, support your child, and also support other people, because you know what? The other parent that is having issues with their child, your child might be your child's best friend, and your child might be impacted by them in one way or the other. So we're here to help each other. We want you to help each other. So consistency is key. What you say, you stand by, no faltering. support the school's effort in helping your child. The school wants the best for your child. The school has a profile of the graduate that they want to see at the end of 5 years. What do you want to see of your child? What type of profile do you have for your child in the next 5 years? And whatever profile you have, we want you to work backwards because it's not going to happen just in fifth form. It starts now. Okay, so a good start can determine a strong end, a strong finish. So seek God's help in every situation. He has brought you this far and he is going to take you much further. So as you know, Psalm 46 verse 1, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in time of trouble. So please, parents, we want to stay strong, recognizing that wherever possible, you are not in this alone. We're here to help you. And anytime you have any issues, feel free to contact me. You can also connect on IG, Smooth Transitions, BB, and, follow us. So don't let this be your cry, if only. If only is always too late. Always too late. So please, parents, with what I've shared, I hope that it has been helpful. Remember that your attitude to change will impact the outcome. Your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. Okay. So I want to thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm now open to them.
Thank you, Mrs. Grant. This was a very insightful, thorough, and comprehensive presentation. We know that it is a transition from primary to secondary school, but your presentation really showed us that it is a very significant one. So thank you so much for your time, and not just for the information, but for the tips and strategies for the parents to successfully navigate this new season and this new chapter. All right, so we're gonna open for questions. We have time for just about 3 questions. And so if you have any questions about something that was said in the presentation, or it could be something that wasn't mentioned at all that you would like to get Mrs. Grant's take on it, for those of you who would have trickled in late, Mrs. Grant is an author and she is the guidance counselor at the St. Michael's School. And so you are welcome to go ahead and unmute yourself and answer your question. We're going to take about 3 questions today. Do we have any questions at all? You're also welcome to drop your question in the chat if you're unable to unmute yourself at this time. But until someone unmutes themselves or drops the question in the chat, I have a feedback form, an evaluation form from today's presentation that I would love for you to fill out, right? You are here, you were listening to Mrs. Grant for about a good hour. And so we want to hear from you. We want to hear how the session was for you. We also want to get some insight into who is here and any questions that you may have had that maybe weren't answered, or even some worries that you may have in moving forward. So I just dropped that evaluation form in the chat, and I just asked that you take about 2 minutes. It's a very, very short form to fill out, and I just ask that you go ahead and do that. Do we have any questions? Anyone is in the process of unmuting themselves? If not, that's okay too. If not, that means Mrs. Grant did a very thorough job. So nobody has any questions. But I want to make you aware of some upcoming webinars, because this was the first in the series. So I am just going to share my screen. Okay, we do have a question in the chat. Let me see. Okay. Okay, so there's someone in the chat that has a concern about their son. And the son is quite big, so they're concerned that their child will stand out and maybe be prone to someone robbing them or maybe even bullying. So Mrs. Grant, do you have any suggestions for this individual? They're concerned about their son being bigger and maybe standing out and being prone to someone robbing him.
And when it comes to bullying, we always encourage children to move around in groups. Try not to move. Every school probably has like out of bound areas. Sometimes first formers are not supposed to go on in any other year group. Sometimes they're told that, and therefore they need to adhere to that. Also, moving around in groups. If he has another friend or another two friends that he can, he's comfortable with them, move around with them. If for some reason anybody, like messes with him and teases him, taunts him constantly, he can really just report it to the form teacher, report it to the guidance counselor, report it to the year head, report it to the parent. And if your child reports such to you, well, then you can always call the form teacher, the year head, guidance counselor, and have a meeting so that it can be dealt with early. We do not encourage such things to be kept secret. Just make sure that you deal with it, get a hearing, get an understanding, because sometimes some children they're not emotionally intelligent to understand that other children are annoyed with something that they're doing. And therefore, many times when the other person might see it as bullying, then it is reported, the other person is like, well, I was just making sport. And sometimes, yeah, they're just making sport, but they can't tell when that the other person has shifted from being cool and calm to being angry, annoyed, and frustrated with their actions. So definitely, I would suggest moving around with others or being assertive. Let people know where he stands. Being assertive. Don't be passive at all. Be assertive, report it, and refrain from being around those type of people.
Good
All right.
evening.
Go ahead. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you again, Margaret. I'm the person who spoke about my son being big. The word there was supposed to be roping in and not robbing, but what you explained, Justin, was another very good idea. When I said roping in, I meant, yes, he's big and he's tall. I'm sure he's going to stand out amongst those first farmers. From what I saw, a lot of the first farmers look a little, some of them are really small. And my thing is, the bigger kids, I don't think that he's gonna be afraid at all for first farm. I think when the bigger kids see him being big, some of them try to rope in the ones who look big and it seems, well, yes, he can fit in. My problem really for him is I'm hoping that he doesn't try to fit in with the big kids to feel like he has that backup. And then they end up putting him or placing him in a position where, because I'm with the big kids, he feels comfortable to be with them and then end up getting into trouble. So that's really my biggest fear. I don't believe that he's going to be frightened at all where the first farmers is concerned. My thing is, when the bigger kids, like I said, four fish, see him because he's big, they may talk to him, whatever. He may feel comfortable being with the bigger kids and then end up being in the doing the wrong thing. That's my biggest fear.
So it comes back to self-esteem as well. And how he feels about himself. He doesn't have to identify with a particular group in order to feel worthy. So it comes back to his self-esteem, how he sees himself, how he values himself, what he really values. Okay, so he has a role to play in the whole scenario as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, so I just want to make everyone aware of the upcoming webinars that we have. And as you know, this is a 2023 parent webinar series hosted by Winners Circle Inc. and Camp Transition. So tonight was session 1, and Mrs. Margaret Grant would have started us off with the transition to secondary school. Now, coming up this Saturday, the 9th of September at 4 p.m., we have the topic supporting your child, how to be their best cheerleader. And Miss Shelley Herbert, who is a senior teacher at the St. Michael's School, she will be coming in to speak on this topic. We have a panel discussion coming up on the 16th of September, and the topic that will be explored is the realities of secondary school life, what parents need to know. On the 23rd of September, we have Mr. Tony Alton, who is an executive leadership development trainer, a coach, and a mentor, and he will be talking about emotionally intelligent parenting. And last but not least, we have Madam Justice Barbara Cook-Allen, who you would have heard from earlier, who is an acting judge, and she will be talking about you, your child, and the law. So the series is running throughout the entire September. Every single Saturday, starting with this upcoming one, there will be a webinar, and so we invite you to come back. We're also inviting you to share the different flyers. You could go ahead and take a screenshot. If not, as you would have put your email address in the form that I would have sent earlier, all of these will be sent to your email address, so you will be getting the information there as well. All right, so share the flyers and be sure to come out. Are there any last questions before we head out? Any final questions? All right, I will take that as a no. So I want to thank each and every single one of you for being here tonight. We know it's the middle of the week and it's after 7 now. And so this is a sacrifice, and this really shows that you have your child's best interest at heart. So we want to thank you as well. We want to congratulate you on your child's success, and we want to wish you all the best as your child makes this significant transition into secondary school. Mrs. Grant, we want to thank you so much for your time and being here tonight and really just pouring into the parents and the guardians and equipping them for this next significant step. Madam Justice Barbara Cook-Allen, we thank you as well for really spearheading this webinar in partnership with Camp Transition. And so we thank you both. And with that, we will see you on Saturday. We will see you at Saturday. Let me just drop the link one more time in the chat. Please go ahead and fill this link out because we want to hear from you. And then we will be able to take your emails and keep you updated with each of the webinars. All right. So with that, everyone have a beautiful night, and we will see you soon. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Good night, Jennifer. Good night, Mrs. Grant.
Good night.
Good night, and thanks very much for y'all time.
Good night. Thank you for being here.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you next time. See you Saturday.
See you on Saturday. Bye.
All right. Enjoy.
All righty, everyone.